Wine and Crime contains graphic and explicit content which may not be suitable for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
They look good. I like them. You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Oh, yeah.
And I bet there will be some mid-Atlantic, old-timey accents.
I have to try to remember
episode.
what it even is. Don't make me sing.
Goodness gracious.
Oh,
We'll
I
get
couldn't
to it.
possibly wash my own hair.
I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair. All right. Well, today we have... Oh, fuck it. God.
This is someone's first episode.
I'm Kenyon.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Amanda.
Today, we have a very special fan pick.
So this is an anonymous person named Bear from St. Paul.
Bear from St. Paul. Okay, great.
St. Paul
topic.
has bears. One of the reasons not to live there. It doesn't. It doesn't.
It probably has at least one.
I kind
The zoo
of like
is over
St.
there.
Paul.
Yeah, I know you do, Kenyon.
My grandma went to
fucking
McAllister.
know.
I like St. Paul. Okay, whatever.
Hey, good
and
for
the houses,
her. Good
the houses
for
are
her.
more affordable. Okay,
Yeah,
Bear
I know.
from
For a
St.
reason.
Paul, who I will defend, has selected the topic of old Hollywood crimes.
Oh,
That's a good
clutching
one.
my pearls.
It's a good one. There was a
Yeah.
lot of cover-ups.
A lot of fucked
crazy
up shit.
affairs.
Yeah, a lot of fucked up shit happened between like 1910 and 1950 in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like
the
a
grandparents
lot.
were a fucking.
Yeah.
Technically, it's 1910 through 1960 is old
Okay.
Hollywood.
Well,
Okay.
all right.
But I feel like 60s
Well-
is too late.
60 feels too late. Yeah.
Whatever.
I would have said 1910 to 1952.
1952, that's specific.
Yeah, wild stories from back then.
I'm pumped.
Yeah.
My case is
You will never look at
Intriguing.
Nana the same way again.
no, your Nana was doing opium
Yeah.
and fucking.
Uh-huh.
God bless her.
Yep.
So let's get right to our wine crime pairing for old Hollywood crimes.
Yes, our fan picker did request like an old world wine. They specifically threw out Barolo, and I love Barolo. I love that recommendation. And the only reason I didn't go out and get one is because my wine storage right now is bursting.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't fit all in my wine cupboard, and so it's just on the floor next to my wine cupboard. So I could not bring myself to go
Justified to
out.
buy one more bottle.
I couldn't fucking do it. But I thought I had a Barolo in my inventory. I don't, but I do have another old world Italian wine. What I am drinking today is the Spinelli Montepulciano D'Abruzzo.
Oh.
There you go. My husband loves a Montepulciano.
It is so good. Also, I'm still not convinced your husband's not Italian.
Italian stallion. The
He's-
number of random people who just assume he's Italian is quite high.
I mean, he's
People
got the
who
look.
People who don't know that Jews exist.
Well, right. I know
Yeah.
that Jews exist. And
I
there are a
still
lot of
think
Italian
he looks
Jews.
Italian.
I think he looks like he could be Italian and also Jewish.
The cultures are very similar.
You know?
They're not mutually exclusive.
I'm just saying, take a peek at that family tree. There might be a little Italy in there.
He's a double Cohen.
A double going. This bottle is awesome because it's really, really, really good. Like it's a delicious, classic, kind of robust, bright Italian red, but it's not an expensive old world style Italian wine. I really, really love the Spinelli Italian wines because they usually retail around like $13 or less. And they just go with everything. Like they're delicious. This one is a nice deep ruby red, which I would show you, but I realized I grabbed a blue glass, so you'll just have to fucking trust me. And it has aromas of red fruit. It's going to have like that spicy balance to it, kind of like a Grenache does, which is another reason why I like a lot of these old world Italian wines will have that like pepper punch to them, which I freaking love. It is a little less robust than, say, a Cabernet, but I'd say it's more medium bodied than even like a Pinot Noir, depending on, the style. But it has a really nice structure. It's really balanced. It finishes nice and dry. And this goes so well with like cured meats, really stinky cheeses,
a spicy sausage,
a vegetable soup, maybe like a little, like
minestrone,
maybe a
roast.
Maybe a little chicken palm with a nice red sauce.
Even an eggplant palm.
Oh my God, an eggplant palm. Maybe a roast.
Hungry.
Maybe you make it a roast. Another thing I love about this bottle is that it's a twist off.
God bless.
So shall we crack?
Let's do it.
Also, like 2 seconds ago, or not 2 seconds ago, but 2 seconds before I started doing my wine segment, I reached for my lotion because once again, I saw it and then I just went, oh, and I put it down and I waited. So now I'm noticing how dry my hands are, and it's like bothering me. So I'm going to open this now.
You wait until Lucy's segment to lotion.
I'm learning.
Lucy
lotion.
Speaking
I also left my ring upstairs, so I feel like
lotion.
a naked mole rat. Okay, here we go.
She's still engaged.
I'm very much still engaged. I just showered, and I put the ring in a bowl on my sink. It's there. It's safe. We've checked. I just didn't put it back on. I have ADHD. Here we go. I'm cracking this wine. Here we go.
Don't start any rumors.
Oh my God, it's Lucy who's getting divorced.
I'm not getting divorced. And if I Google wine and crime, one of the first things that pops up is wine and crime, Lucy divorce.
Divorce, question mark.
I don't know how that even started.
I don't either. Because I pretend to hate my husband. Oh my God,
You
your
don't
mother
even,
is
though.
You
call-
don't.
You
Brennan, your
super
mom
don't.
is calling me.
Oh,
Oh,
my
for
God.
God's sake.
Should I
Tell her
answer
we're recording.
No. she'll not even say hello. She'll just launch into her question.
Let her know. Okay, I'm cracking while you dispel Elizabeth.
I rejected the
I love
call.
you, Mom, but you're not listening, so
I
you'll literally never know that
did
I
not
said any
answer.
of this.
Here we go. Oh,
Oh,
a crack and a squeak.
Jesus.
Oh,
nice crack.
Nice crack.
I'm gonna have
it
some
is
of my
like
lotion too.
purple.
Same lotion.
Oh my God, this is
Matching lotion.
gorge.
I know. Of course we do.
From
I have that one
Imperfect
upstairs.
Foods.
Okay.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I'm still drinking my mango grapefruit seltzer water, which is quite delicious.
That sounds really fucking good. And now it's Lucy's segment, so I'm going to put on my lotion.
Yeah, Lucy, what's our background in psych and lotion?
There's really not any psych, but
Or lotion.
there's lotion.
Tell me you're in
There's
your
lotion,
mid-30s
baby.
without telling me you're in your mid-30s.
My hands get dry. I was on the scooter for an hour.
All of us, we've been lotioning our hands for way too
It
long.
feels really
I
good.
know. It's like the one small joy in my day.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so old Hollywood refers to the genre of classical Hollywood cinema, which is a term used to describe both a narrative and visual style of filmmaking, which became characteristic of American cinema between the 1910s. It increased rapidly after World War I and the 1960s or 1950s. It eventually became the most powerful and pervasive style of filmmaking around the world.
Cool.
My ring light is haunted. It just turned up on itself. What the fuck?
Ooh.
Okay.
Maybe one of our case victims is trying to communicate.
I have been watching Stranger Things, so it might also be someone asking for help from the
From the upside down.
From the
It's
upside down.
Dustin. Or maybe Vecna. I don't know. I was barely following. I watched it all.
I don't know any of their names. Like, I feel like I skipped last season too.
I definitely missed last season and all of last season.
Yeah.
And we just
Kind of
started at this
important.
season.
Corey filled me in.
I just like the characters
My
when they're
estranged
hanging
husband.
out.
You're
when they're
estranged.
vibing. I don't really like the scary part.
No, I don't either. I just like that
just
when
like-
they're at school or when
Yeah,
Eleven's
riding
in
their
that
bikes.
lab.
I
They're
have
in
no words.
the pizza van.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
I know. I do not pay attention when the monsters come.
I'm in pain.
I don't care about the Russian side plot.
No.
That's like the whole plot.
Some of those characters are nice. Though. Like, they're funny. They got some funny lines.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lucy and I are on the same page for Stranger Things.
I don't need to listen to every word. It's not
I get
Real
it.
Housewives.
I mean,
Those
let's
are plot
pivot
lines that
to
I
Ultimate Girls Trip, which has saved
Oh
my
my
sanity
so
in the
fucking
last couple
good.
weeks.
Yes.
I need
Oh.
to catch up.
Phaedra.
Yeah.
Who knew Phaedra was such
She
a jewel?
is an absolute queen. I don't know why they ever would have removed her from
Mhm.
the house. She's amazing.
Mhm. Put her on pause, you mean?
Yeah, well, okay, Dorinda.
Okay.
Vicky can eat my whole asshole, though. I
yeah.
hate her.
But she's good TV.
I mean, yeah. All right. Anyway, what is this episode about?
Old Hollywood. Stranger Things and Real Housewives and Lotion.
Okay.
The
okay,
girls
okay.
misremember Stranger Things.
No, you two.
Us
You two
Two
misremember.
gals misremember Stranger Things. Okay. Okay, so this visual narrative style of the classical Hollywood cinema was heavily influenced by the ideas of the Renaissance and its resurgence of mankind as the focal point. It is distinguished at three general levels. So we have devices, systems, and then how those systems relate to each other. So just try to stick with me.
This seems very highbrow for
Yeah, I mean, okay.
We'll get to
people
the
making
interesting
movies.
It's like I don't think
It's a
the
whole art
Renaissance
form.
jumps out
Weren't
at
they
me
just,
when
they
I
were just love stories.
Let's focus on individual people,
Okay,
the individual.
got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So it's also kind of important to consider that this genre cropped up as like the first talkies, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So they made movies completely differently once
Yep.
sound was introduced.
Yes.
All right. So Western individualism, got it.
Got it.
Next.
Yep. So the devices most inherent to classical Hollywood cinema are those of continuity editing. So there's something called the 180-degree rule, where they kind of refer to it as a photographed play style. So there is a visual spatial there's like an axis,
set.
like the camera's over here, the people are over here.
Mhm.
Okay.
So this allows viewers to clearly orient themselves within the position and the direction of action in a scene. It allows you to suspend your disbelief. It feels like you're there.
Okay.
According to the 30-degree rule, cuts in the angle that the scene is viewed from must be significant enough for the viewer to understand the purpose of the change in perspective. So cuts that don't adhere to the 30-degree rule are like jump cuts. And they can
Okay.
be disruptive to the viewer. It's like
I feel like the modern version
distracting.
the modern version of that is like it's breaking the third wall. Like if you're watching an action flick and then they do like mud or blood spatter like on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. I feel like it totally removes me from the like cinematic experience.
Yeah. So there's like different things like that just kind of allow you to feel like you're in it instead of just
Mhm.
viewing it.
Mm-hmm.
So then also the narrative logic is a important thing. So like they have like the classical narration that progresses through psychological motivation. So like each character has a will and they
Mhm.
struggle against obstacles towards a defined goal. So it's like the story arc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the narrative element is commonly composed of a primary narrative. So for example, a romance. And then this is intertwined with a secondary narrative or multiple narratives. So like a girl's in love with a guy, but he's married or whatever.
Yeah, there's always an obstacle.
Mm-hmm. So the narrative is structured with an unmistakable beginning, middle, and end. And generally there's a distinct resolution because Amanda can't handle it if there's not a distinct resolution.
Oh, we'll get to it.
So the characters in classical Hollywood cinema have clearly definable traits. They're active, they're goal-oriented. They're causal agents motivated by psychological rather than social concerns. So like nothing is random. It's not like real life. They have control and they are making very purposeful,
Specific
distinct
choices.
decisions.
And then the audience can usually kind of like predict what the consequences of their actions are going to be.
Yeah, that's what makes movies exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
So like all of this stuff is familiar to us because we recognize it, but
Right,
it
we
was
grew
all
up
like
in
what
cinema.
our whole society, what our
Right.
culture
Yeah.
was built on.
Yeah, but it wasn't always like this.
Right.
Okay.
So then we have like, a continuous linear uniform time unless a character has a flashback.
Okay.
So like in Casablanca, but everything else is like, it moves on a linear pattern. And then we have the cinematic space. So this is just like space consisting of centering, balancing, frontality, and depth. So again, shit that I've never really thought about before, but I think it's interesting.
I've taken niche film study classes, but they were like so focused on the niche part and not on the film studies part.
Yeah.
That I don't have any
It's like an
background in any
intro.
of this.
It's like an intro to film.
Yeah.
So persons or objects of significance are mostly in the center of the frame, and they are never out of focus. Balancing refers to the visual composition, so like the characters are evenly distributed throughout the frame. It's balanced. The action is subtly addressed toward the spectator, which is what frontality is. So people are acting towards the camera, towards you.
Toward the audience, yeah.
It's like how you never see the other side of the apartment in Friends.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
And then set lighting and costumes are designed to separate the foreground from the background, which is the depth.
Okay.
So all of this stuff was, like I said, it was all new at the time, which is sort of mind blowing.
Yeah, and it was like like Kenny kind of mentioned, it's like a brand new adaptation of the performing arts that we did know, which were all on stage.
Right.
It's the
It
photographed
makes
play.
sense. Yeah. That this is how it was.
Evolving.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
why
natural progression.
why silent films were so different, because when they were first made, it was so much of just like playing around with the technology. It was like
And like one camera.
yeah,
Right.
it was
Following
like
someone
watching
around.
somebody like play with a ball and then the ball disappears, and it was like, whoa! It was almost more like magic tricks,
Right.
And
It was like vaudeville almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then like one crazy guy in the corner playing a piano and just
Right.
sweating his ass off.
yeah.
And then people thinking they're going to die because a train is coming toward them.
So that's my only boring part, I promise. It gets more interesting. So
We
for
learned things.
Yeah. So for better or worse, old Hollywood was basically ruled by what's known as the studio system in the 30s and 40s. So, quote, the studio system is a business method where Hollywood movie studios control all aspects of their film productions, including production, distribution, and exhibition. So, like, they owned the theaters, too.
It was a monopoly.
Yeah,
We'll get to it.
rife with exploitation.
I was
We'll
going to
get
say
to it.
super problematic. Continue.
If you've ever seen Mommy Dearest, don't fuck with me, fellas.
I'm watching that tonight.
That
I'm
is
setting,
absolutely due for a rewatch. Yeah.
I'm setting
so
like, I know
fucking
we've
good.
talked recently about needing to rewatch Mommy Dearest, and I didn't do it, so I'm looking up where it's streaming right now.
It's a good move. But a lot of that has to do with her struggles with the studio execs. So it's kind of
They
a good.
used to put people on drugs.
We'll get to it, honey.
Oh,
doctors.
We'll
Okay.
get to it.
Yeah.
So these big five studios were Metro Goldwyn Mayer, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Fox, and one called RKO, which I've never heard of before today.
It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Apple TV.
Nice.
Okay.
So all personnel, including actors, crew, directors, and writers, were under contract to the studios, and these contracts could last between 4 and 7 years. Commonly,
Yeah.
they were
It's a long ass contract.
They
7 years
owned
of
you.
your life.
they completely
Yeah.
owned you.
You couldn't work anywhere else, honey.
Well, some actors were loaned between studios, but that was fairly rare.
and also not up to them.
No, they had really no agency. So they were under these long contracts. It made for efficient and assembly line style filmmaking that dominated the industry for about 2 crucial decades, so the 30s and 40s. In other words, these studios were vertically integrated and everything was handled in-house.
Yeah, and they were just churning out movies
So there was
multiple
no
times a year.
dealing with conflicting schedules. It was just like you were just puzzle pieces on their board.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You meaning
Lots of money.
we're all classic Hollywood actresses,
Right.
starlets, ingenues.
Right.
Mules.
Mills.
So
Anka jobs.
Anka jobs. So
Anka jobs.
some characteristics of the studio system include, so the studios, like I said, owned their own movie theaters, and those would play, so like, an MGM movie theater would only play MGM movies.
Oh, okay.
Studios offered independent theaters a block set of films, and this was known as block booking. And these blocks contained the desirable movies mixed in with the unwanted movies. Because not
Okay.
every theater was owned by a studio. There were independent ones, but they had to take the bundles.
The cream, what is it? The wheat with the chaff? What's the thing?
Oh, wow.
I don't fucking
Whatever.
Nailed it.
Everyone from actors to directors were paid a salary instead of per film, along with having contracts. So
They could just way overwork you and way
Yeah.
underpay you.
Yep. Most of these studios were fronted by major movie moguls who previously owned movie theaters in the 1910s before heading to Los Angeles to run their own studios.
And it also, like, it goes without saying, but this is like a very white
Yes.
bit of history.
Sort
Yeah.
of get to it.
So, like, there were black folks in film, but they were, if you think that it was, like,
Not
bad
very
to
many.
work under a Hollywood contract, there were not very many. And if they were paid at all, it was pennies.
However, the white actors were exploited. The people of color were exploited far worse, or just completely blocked from the industry.
Yep. So aside from the big 5 studios, there were also 3 smaller studios that did not own as many of their own movie theaters. So these were Universal, Columbia, and United Artists, which was a studio founded by Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith, precisely because the studios were so controlling of their work, salary, and creativity. So they just made their own. That's what United Artists is.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how many of these still exist.
Yeah.
Like,
Except RKO, whatever the fuck that is.
well, and that might exist too. That's ringing like a very vague bell.
Yeah, I don't know. So eventually the feds, like Amanda noted, forced these major studios to shut down over antitrust laws since they basically formed a massive monopoly.
RKO was dissolved in the 50s. Okay, I take it back.
So initially, like in the 1910s and 20s, these dudes were obscenely rich. And at first,
They owned the entire industry.
the monopoly.
Yeah.
At first, they didn't care about potential repercussions of their creativity, but that did not last long. So this is from a PBS article. It was a rash of Hollywood scandals in the late teens and early 20s that helped intensify the ire of local censors and forced the film industry leaders to address the industry's image problems. In 1921, comedian Fatty Arbuckle was accused of the rape and murder of a young actress.
Yep.
Director William Desmond Taylor.
Did we cover that? Amanda, I think you covered that.
I think I did, yeah.
Like a long time ago.
Yeah, real early in the game.
Could have been comedian crimes.
It might have been. No, I didn't cover him then, but
It was you did though, I think.
Yeah. Director William Desmond Taylor was found murdered. Actor Wallace Reed died of a drug overdose, and America's sweetheart actress Mary Pickford, one of the United Artists, obtained a quickie divorce to marry dashing matinee idol Douglas Fairbanks. Very scandalous.
I love it.
Studio
Back
heads,
when you could only get a divorce in like 2 states,
Right.
right.
which we're heading back towards.
Unless you had enough money, which she did. Studio heads hired a public relations man named Will Hayes to bolster the industry's tainted reputation.
Bolster their taint.
Bolster their taint by convincing the nation that Hollywood was not at all scandalous, or not all scandalous, and that the movie industry would censor itself. But Hayes, at the time, was merely a spokesperson. So since he had very little power to change the content of the films themselves, the criticism escalated, exploding into a national crisis when sound technology gave the movies a voice, like we talked about.
There was a lot of like rapey, like hints, rape being very much hinted at in silent movies. Like if you go back, it was like pretty explicit and graphic for the time, which you like would not think about.
Well, let me just finish this segment. But basically, changes were implemented, which I'm about to tell you about. Before those changes and after those changes, it's fucking night and day. Like if you watch movies like a chronological order, it's really insane how much this affected the content. Okay, so in the late 1920s, state censorship boards were working overtime to keep up with the talkies. These talking pictures incensed religious leaders concerned about America's youth. Somebody please think of the children.
The children, yep.
They are our future.
I believe.
Quote, silent smut had been bad. Vocal smut cried to the censors for vengeance, wrote Father Daniel Lord. His last name was Lord.
Good Lord.
An influential Jesuit
Lord.
teacher in the 1920s. Bad Lord. Ugh. Catholic religious leaders especially turned up the heat on Hollywood, calling for strict moral standards and a code of conduct for movie content based on the premise that, quote, no picture shall be produced which will lower the moral standards of those who see it.
Wow. Okay. Well, we've come a long way, baby.
And I guess we're just going to pre-test everyone's moral standards before they walk in the theater.
Yep.
Honestly, that's the only way to do it.
Well, there are two ways to do it. And the other way is what's known as the production
Watering
code.
Everything down, yeah.
The production code spelled out specific restrictions on language and behavior, particularly sex and crime, which were two surefire box office draws. That's what people wanted to see.
They're the reason we have a job.
Yep. Yeah. We are pornographic.
Yeah.
It prohibited nudity, suggestive dances, and the ridicule of religion.
My God.
Incredible.
It forbade,
you can't make fun of our cult.
It forbade the depiction of illegal drug use, venereal disease, childbirth, and miscegenation. I never know how to say that. So interracial coupling.
Yeah, great.
The language section banned dozens of quote-unquote offensive words and phrases. Criminal activity could not be presented in a way that led viewers to sympathize with the criminals. Murder scenes had to avoid inspiring imitation.
Uh-oh. So all of our recommendations on like how to hide a body would not have gone over.
No. No.
We wouldn't have done well.
We would not have succeeded. And brutal killings could not be shown in detail, which is why we do this job.
Right.
The sanctity of the marriage and the home had to be upheld. Adultery and illicit sex, although recognized as sometimes necessary to the plot, could not be explicit or justified and were not supposed to be presented as an attractive option.
That's totally like, that bled into so much television culture too. Like on the Brady Bunch, the parents were like all families.
Lucy and Desi.
Parents were, well, yeah, they're all in two separate like twin beds in their room.
Yeah. Yep.
Sex scenes were just like maybe some interesting music and then like the closing of
One
the bedroom
kiss.
door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that was it.
You
still see a lot of that in like modern film.
Yeah. And you don't have to show, like sometimes it is gratuitous.
Totally.
It depends.
I just think it's so funny how like
the
very
two separate
specific.
beds is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so specific.
Mm-hmm.
They had 6 children, 3 each, and they're in 2 separate beds.
Yep. Yeah. They didn't have any children.
No.
Because they were in 2 separate beds.
Right.
Hayes convinced the studios that accepting the code was the safest and cheapest answer to their troubles. If the movie industry policed itself, it could ward off the high probability of government intervention. After losing money in the stock market crash of 1929 and paying big bills for introducing sound to the movies.
Oh, yeah, they had to retrofit everything.
The theaters and the technology to film it, itself.
Wow.
It's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Sound to the movies. The studios were also deep in debt and desperate to cut costs. Hayes sold the code as the money-saving measure they were searching for. Instead of paying to revise the film after the censorship boards made their edits, the studios could simply follow the code before making their movies, and everyone would be happy. Mm-hmm. The code was adopted in 1930. So that's when it kind of like started, but it wasn't actually enforced until 1934 when they organized the Production Code Administration. And any theater that ran movies that did not have the PCA approval would be fined $25,000.
Dang, that's a lot of fucking money.
It is a shitload of money. So the production code's days were numbered in 1952 when movies were officially granted free speech protection under the First Amendment. The motion picture industry officially abandoned the code in 1968. That was in effect for a very long time.
Yeah, it really was.
And so then after that, they quickly replaced the system of age-based ratings that still exists today. So like PG-13.
Yeah, so you can make whatever you want, but some theaters will choose what to show. And
So because of tight controls that these studios had over the movie stars of old Hollywood, they were able to enforce some absolutely ridiculous rules that we have mentioned. I just have a shitload of examples for you. So these are some of them, and this is from Harper's Bazaar. So the actors were not permitted to refuse roles. Betty Davis was suspended by Warner Brothers for turning down roles.
Wow.
When Louis B. Mayer, who's the co-founder of MGM, wanted to break his contract with actor John Gilbert, he planted rumors about the star and reportedly intentionally put him in bad movies. So as a result, Gilbert's career completely tanked.
Yeah, they just had total control.
And unlimited opportunities for sabotage.
God, that's so scary.
Many of the old Hollywood stars you know and love, such as Marilyn Monroe, Rita Hayworth, Judy Garland, used stage names that were picked by the studios. They had no input as to what their new name was going to be.
Or their whole identity or their lives. And all of them led such happy lives with no problems
No,
to
none.
report.
So MGM at one point even held a contest to find a name for their new star, whose real name was Lucille LeSueur, which is a fantastic name. They chose Joan Crawford.
Wow.
And apparently she hated the name Joan Crawford.
Well, you can't have something too difficult for the people in the sticks to pronounce.
Lucille LeSueur. What a fantastic name. Okay. Actors were often forced into altering their appearance to make them more marketable, and that included plastic surgery. And this was at a time when that was super not safe.
Yep.
So,
and the men just as much as the women.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know about just as much, but the men
wasn't
lot
just
more
as
than
much,
you
but
think.
they were controlled. Women were primarily limited to either All-American Girl Next Door or sexy bombshell typecasting. Studios went to great lengths to market those images to their audience, sometimes even making up fake backstories for their talent. Quote unquote, weight maintenance clauses were very common in female actors' contracts.
On either end, too. Wasn't the actress who played Ethel on I Love Lucy, she had in her contract that she had to weigh like at least 30 pounds more than Lucille Ball at any time.
She had to stay like the quote-unquote funny fat friend.
Yeah.
Katharine Hepburn famously rejected her studio's guidelines on dress code. I love this. And reportedly walked around set in her underwear, refusing to get dressed after someone in the costume department at RKO took her pants away. She wanted to wear pants. The studio said you can't wear pants. So she was like, fine, I'm not gonna wear pants.
And she's so iconic in her pants.
I know.
There's a picture of her. There's a picture of her that'll be on the blog of her in her pants. She's so pretty. So like Kenyon said, male actors were not exempt from the studio's rules and regulations. They were expected to exude the ideals of a gentleman at all times. So as a result, messy divorces, womanizing behavior, or anything illegal could have a serious impact on their careers.
Or would be hushed up, and we'll get to it.
Right.
They were not allowed to avoid the press. They had to stage photo ops or, you know,
attend certain parties or
hang out with certain people, go on certain dates,
marry certain people.
Yeah.
So sham dates, as they were called back then, were a way for a studio to drum up publicity for upcoming pictures featuring their stars. So, for example, while promoting the movie Babes in Arms, Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland had to act like a couple and like go out on dates and be seen. But Mickey Rooney was a huge womanizer playboy. So,
yeah, and not cute.
no.
Roll gross.
I'm sure way older than her. I don't know for sure, but
I don't know. Poor Judy.
poor all of them.
Yes, and it was a different time. They all did a lot of fucked up shit and received a lot of fucked up shit.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God. You know what? I'm sure that some of this stuff still happens today, but it's not so, like, I feel like the actors involved have way more agency to consent to these sham dating
They have
things and
agents.
photo ops and publicity stunts and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they're more in on it.
Yeah, in some cases for sure. I mean, I don't know like all the details about it, but I know there was like a whole bunch of fucked up shit with Kesha, who was like sexually assaulted by one of her music producers, but they like owned basically every aspect of her life. And so she was just stuck working with him. And it's like, it's just like more hush hush now, I feel like. It's not as blatant.
I mean, yes, obviously that stuff still happens and it's horrible. I meant more like
It's not
so and so
only
and
way.
so and so are dating, and you know,
It's
and then
only a
like 2
publicity
months
stunt.
later, it's like, what? No, they were never dating.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at this time it was so thoroughly exploitative, like across the board, everything was manipulated. It is different today, but obviously a lot of these things still exist.
And
clearly.
it's not like these stars back then had social media. They didn't have their own way to
Connect with
communicate
each other and
to the
protect
public.
each other.
Everything
And they were like,
was filtered through the studios.
and they're like, weren't unions really? Like there sort of were in the 40s and 50s, but at like this early, it's like, this is just how it is. Fucking deal with it.
They
basically.
were put in positions where it was in their best interest to go along with all this shit.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you want a career, then you have to do this.
So sadly, studios forced many LGBTQ plus actors into heterosexual marriages, for example.
And writers and directors, like anyone in the industry.
Well, specifically for actors because they were so public-facing.
Public-facing, yeah.
So, for example, Rock Hudson was forced to marry his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates, and it wasn't until he publicly announced his AIDS diagnosis that he revealed that he was homosexual, which I don't know when that was, but it had to have been.
It was a huge deal.
I think it was in the 80s, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think it was earlier than that, but yeah.
But he couldn't come out for that long.
Until he was like dying, essentially.
Well, he died in 1985.
I think he came out about his AIDS diagnosis in the 70s, but I don't remember exactly.
No, he was diagnosed in 84.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he lived all that time in the
He
closet.
basically just came out so he could die in his truth.
Yeah.
Which is really fucking sad.
Jean Harlow was told that becoming a wife would alter her sex appeal, and due to the morality clause in her contract with MGM, the studio was allowed to deny her marriage to William
Jesus
Powell.
Christ.
Oh my fucking God.
Also, actresses knew that becoming pregnant was against most studios' rules, and as a result, some women, such as Ava Gardner, had abortions to prevent penalties. But one loophole was adoption. So, as we know from Mommy Dearest, Joan Crawford had several children who were adopted for that reason. Elizabeth Taylor's first wedding was paid for by her studio because it was conveniently right before the release of her film Father of the Bride.
Wow.
So they treated her wedding as a massive PR stunt.
How do I get that for my wedding?
I don't know if you want it.
Elizabeth
you don't get to
Taylor.
make any decisions.
I mean...
So Marlene Dietrich was one of the earliest known film stars who was told to lose weight. She followed a diet of broth, cottage cheese, and toast as dictated by her studio.
I like all of those things, but not if that's all you can
You're
ever eat.
that's
Right.
allowed to eat.
Ugh.
As a child star, this is why I said poor Judy. As a child star, Judy Garland was force-fed meth and encouraged to smoke cigarettes to curb her appetite as a
yeah.
child.
Yeah, there was a lot of
speed.
amphetamines. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that also meant working 6 days per week and up to 18-hour shifts filled with singing and dancing.
Yeah, there were no like regulations to protect really any actors, but especially child actors. They didn't give a fuck.
There were laws, but they were very minimal child labor laws. So basically,
they
they
didn't
had
give a
to
fuck.
work as much as their adult counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave her pep pills to give her energy. And then when it was time for her to sleep, because she only had 6 hours to sleep, they gave her sleeping
downers.
pills.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Great. I'm sure she felt fabulous, and I'm sure it didn't affect her development at all.
Well, since you asked, after getting hooked on pep pills, the pep pills MGM was giving her, Judy struggled with addiction. She called in sick 16 days while working on the movie Meet Me in St. Louis, and production on The Pirate was delayed by the actress for the same reason. All the filming delays due to her sick days, her absence, came out of her paycheck, which at one point reached $100,000.
Oh my God.
So
Also,
she was punished.
I think she married the director of Meet Me in St. Louis.
Oh, fun.
I think.
Studios often appointed assistants to their actors who would advise and take care of the stars, and they would also report back to the studio execs and essentially act as spies.
Mm-hmm.
It is so similar to like royalty almost, like the court.
Yeah.
Back in
Well, right. Like
different centuries.
chaperones and
Yeah.
arranged marriages and
And one person being allowed to like decide who and if you can get married.
I say who, I say when, I say who.
who.
Yeah. Also, I read that Judy Garland's nanny at one point, like the nanny of her children, was spying on her that whole time, and she felt really, really betrayed, obviously. 'Cause she's like her child's caretaker.
That's great. That won't induce any paranoia or trauma.
No. That's why she
My
was
God.
such a lunatic
Oh,
later in life.
so is her daughter.
Some of the rules put forth by the censorship were about on-screen kisses because they were not meant to look too lustful, which meant that they couldn't last longer than 3 seconds. So that
I
explains
adhere to that.
why you might see all those intense but very short kisses in old movies.
Little pecks.
Really,
No
really
tongue.
intense, but really short. And
So
that was it.
gross. I hate it.
Yeah, just
It's so much worse.
what is it called? Firm pressing? What's it
Yeah.
called?
Yeah.
Impressing.
A firm press.
Mhm.
They were
For-
basically on film soaking for wine. Yeah.
Mashing mouths.
Yeah.
And then
Painful.
on a similar note, and my last fun fact for you, there was a rule called the 1 foot on the floor rule that was implemented to keep actors from looking too horizontal while filming intimate scenes.
Incredible.
So there's a picture.
I feel like I've heard of parents implementing that rule for like their
Probably.
teens.
there's a picture on the drive of who is this? Marlene Dietrich with 1 foot on the floor while she's kissing some guy.
Oh, I see it.
nice.
Yeah. So anyway, fucked up time. Pretty fucked up time. But that's a little background for old Hollywood.
Anytime a corporation or any kind of capitalist structure has a monopoly and control, it's not going to go great.
Nope.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Elon.
All right. Well done.
Thanks.
Learned
Very
so much.
interesting.
Yeah, there's your intro to film.
We ready for my case?
I think so.
So, Clark Gable
Ever heard of him?
was born in 1901 and raised in rural Ohio. His mother passed away when he was only 1 year old, and his father, an oil field worker,
An oil man.
an oilman, remarried a couple years later. The remarriage was good for Clark because his stepmom was great. So his stepmother, Jenny Dunlap, taught Clark to play the piano and instilled a love of performing and the arts in him at a young age. So very influential.
That was good on her.
Yeah.
When Jenny died in 1920 and Clark's father relocated to Oklahoma, Clark joined a theater group and moved to Oregon.
Wisconsin.
Which is not, I feel like not
Tinseltown. Oh, Oregon.
the bright lights of Oregon.
Got it. The Sunshine State.
But still, here he met a woman named Josephine Dillon, and she was a theater manager in Portland. She was 17 years his senior, so she like kind of had her shit together. And she saw a special something in young Gable despite his like awkwardness, and he had like a really high-pitched voice apparently. And his like ears stuck out a lot, and like he wasn't
The Clark Gable we know today.
A smoke show.
Not
Yeah.
yet. There are some photos on the drive of young Clark Gable, but even these are like after she kind of cleaned him up a bit.
Well, they're not going to release any of the really awkward ones.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh, he's cute.
Yeah.
Once she
He got there.
done
He
with
was
him.
swanned out.
So she took him on as a student and paid to have his teeth fixed and his hair styled.
Wow. That's not cheap.
Clark's
Sugar
speech,
mama.
Yeah. His speech habits and mannerisms gradually improved. I don't know if she like got him a tutor or she just kind of like got him into shape. I don't know. And eventually Josephine believed that he was ready for Hollywood.
Is she like grooming him? Should I not like her?
No, it's fine. It
Okay.
doesn't, it's fine.
Okay.
So she agreed to move there with him and become both his full-time manager as well as his wife. And it wasn't long before he began booking small parts in silent films. But he soon became frustrated by not being offered any leading roles, and Gable decided to move to New York to pursue a career on Broadway. Because, like, that's easy.
Yeah. If you can't
my
make it in
second choice.
Hollywood, yeah, your safety school
Yeah.
is Broadway.
If you can't act, try
Right.
acting, singing, and dancing at the same time.
Right. No big.
It did work out for him, though. It brought him a little bit more success, but his personal life started to crumble into a hot mess.
Oh.
So despite her having literally snatched him from obscurity, trained him,
Handed him this life.
handed him his career literally on a platter, he regularly cheated on Josephine, and in 1929, the two filed for divorce.
Men.
Only a few days after this was finalized, Clark married a Texas socialite named Maria Franklin Prentice Lucas Langham,
Love that.
Wow.
who, thank God,
Wet
just went
pussy.
wet
Wet
pussy,
pussy.
who, thank God, just went by Rhea. With Rhea, and there are photos of her too on the drive. Great coats, just
Beautiful.
fabulous fashion. She had money.
Oh, great coats.
Oh,
That collar is really something.
yeah.
Jesus.
So with Rhea, he returned to Hollywood, and this time around, he had much better luck because he kind of had like an in to some of these social circles now. Before long, he became MGM's most in-demand romantic leading man. Some sources point to his, quote, unshaven lovemaking with braless Jean Harlow.
Wow.
Hot.
Who was unshaven?
Pretty hot.
He was
What
unshaved.
was unshaven?
Okay, I'm just checking. Doesn't change anything for
No.
me. It actually, one makes it better.
I think everybody should be unshaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, and braless, I mean, hey, you got
These
me.
are two things I fully relate to.
So this was apparently the turning point in his career as a romantic lead. I don't know what movie that was in. I have to look it up. Sounds great.
Okay.
I'm looking it
Love
up
it.
right now.
Gable would go on to make dozens of films under contract with MGM and became known as the King of Hollywood.
Dang.
In 1939, he reluctantly accepted, aka was not allowed to refuse, the role of Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, which would remain his most enduringly famous performance. Also, so much to say about Gone with the Wind. I feel like we've talked about it before.
Oh my God, there are still photos.
She doesn't hold up.
Does not know. Extremely problematic. Also, a big part of our history and culture. And I do think important to read with a critical lens in order to understand a lot of our history. As long as you are reading it with that critical lens and not just like taking it for how things were, which it fucking was not. Okay.
I'm putting some very erotic images in your folder.
Of an unshaven Clark Gable.
She is
eating
braless.
pussy.
And Jean Harlow. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, I haven't dropped him yet.
Okay.
She's just
Unshaven.
obtaining and hoarding them for herself.
I
For
am
her own bank.
Spanking
my
banking.
bank. Gross.
I'm offended.
It's a high yield account. Okay. So Clark Gable really did not want this role, even though it became his biggest role of his whole career and like defined him as this icon.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're in as Unshaven 1 and Unshaven 2.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come
Put it in
on,
your
Dry.
bank,
He
baby.
looks pretty shaven to me, but
Oh, yeah.
That
maybe
is
it was her
braless,
that was
though.
unshaven.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Oh,
Maybe he's
very
just
braless.
Usually so clean shaven.
Like you can almost see nip in one of these.
Yeah. I think you kind of can.
The PCA
Areola.
would not have approved.
No, it's great.
Was this pre-1934?
It was in the 30s. I don't know about before 1934, but definitely in the 30s.
Okay.
Before 1939, for damn sure.
Perfect.
Okay. So, Gable did not want to be in Gone with the Wind. He refused to read the book that the movie is based on and later said
Too long.
that, which it is a page turner. Later said that the pressure to accept the part, this is how he felt, quote, "I think I now know how a fly must react after being caught in a spider's web." So he really didn't want to do it. But on set, he befriended Hattie McDaniel, the actress who plays Mammy, and went on to become a regular attendee of her famous Hollywood parties. Some sources credit Gable with desegregating the set after he was alerted to the existence of white and colored signs on the studio's facilities. And reportedly, he called the movie's director, Victor Fleming, after seeing these signs and stated, quote, "If you don't get those signs down, you won't get your Rhett Butler." And the signs were taken down.
Cool.
But I didn't fucking know this part. This didn't stop the movie's Atlanta premiere from being segregated.
Yep.
In Atlanta?
Yeah. And Hattie McDaniel, who was one of the main characters of the movie, was not allowed to attend the premiere because she was black.
God.
And she later became the first black person to be nominated and
For an Oscar, right?
for an Oscar and the first to win. She won Best Supporting Actress for that role, which is like very bittersweet because obviously the role is super problematic, but like she also did. I don't know. It's just so much to say about Gone with the Wind. So that's fucking crazy. Despite Gable's reluctance to take the part of Rhett Butler, it did have at least one large benefit. It brought in a large enough paycheck that he was able to pay for his expensive divorce settlement with his second wife, Rhea.
Well, she needed to maintain her coat lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I get it. That alimony's
Absolutely.
not cheap.
Well, if she's a socialite, she's probably fucking rich herself too. So,
But still,
A lot of assets to divvy up at that point.
think of the coat.
the coats.
So this was a long and drawn out process that began in 1936, and he started dating and fell in love then with actress Carole Lombard. And it sounds like she was the real like love of his life. So 3 weeks after his divorce from Maria was finally final, he married Carole Lombard.
He is one after another. It's just like really quick rebounds.
She's the love of his life, but this will not be his last marriage nor his second to last marriage.
Good for him.
Fabulous.
So this marriage was by many accounts the happiest period of his life, but it was also short-lived. On January 16th, 1942, Lombard was flying back from a trip selling war bonds, which her mother actually accompanied her on. And the plane crashed near Las Vegas, killing all 22 passengers aboard.
Oh my God.
I didn't know she died in a plane crash.
I didn't
That
either.
is so scary.
So he had to fly to the crash site to claim the bodies of his wife and his mother-in-law.
Oh. At the crash site? Oh,
Yeah,
she is a fox.
Yeah,
I just
at the
Googled
morgue,
her.
I'm assuming. After this tragedy, he would go on to act in 27 more films and to marry twice more. But according to those who knew him, he was, quote, never the same. And like, how could you be?
Right. That's traumatic.
Soon after Lombard's death, he decided to join the war effort himself and enlisted in the Air Force. In a weird / like disturbing piece of trivia, this was fucking crazy. Adolf Hitler was like a huge Clark Gable fan
Yikes.
and is rumored to have offered a sizable reward to anyone who could capture and bring Clark Gable to him unharmed.
Oh my
Like he
God.
wanted him kidnapped and brought to Germany.
Hitler was such a
As a
stable
pet.
genius.
I could see
Such
Trump
a
doing
stable
that.
genius. Yeah. The parallels are undeniable.
Yeah.
Yeah. That isn't that can you imagine?
No.
It
That'd
would be
so
like if-
fucking freaky.
It would be like if Kim Jong-il was like, bring me Brad Pitt.
Right. I
Alive.
love him. I want him alive. Yeah.
Like, what? It's great. It's insane.
I'm his
me Brad
biggest
Pitt.
fan.
Bring me Brad.
Oh my God.
Get Brad on the phone.
Get Brad on the phone. Emily.
Get me Brad.
So
We are blending so many references in the last like 2 seconds. Anyway, I love it.
So
I followed all of them. I love
so
it.
after
you
being
did.
after being discharged from active duty, which was under pressure from MGM because they were like, you are way too valuable of a leading man
Right.
to
be kidnapped by
wasted
Hitler.
in the Air Force.
Right.
Like
To die
fuck
at
the
war or
country.
be handed over to Hitler on a silver platter.
Yeah.
Heck.
Gable was returned to Hollywood, but in 1945, he was involved in a car accident, and this is our scandal.
Hold on. How did they get him out of the Air Force? Can you just quit
money
the war?
and-
Yeah, I don't know.
There are a lot of like quote unquote important or powerful people were exempt because of their like status in society or their contributions, quote unquote, to American culture. Like this was not
I know,
uncommon,
but-
especially in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Ronald Reagan like served in the army, but literally all he did was make movies
yep.
on a fucking Hollywood lot during the
basically
war.
that-
Elvis.
Yeah. Isn't that in like the first Captain America movie where they just like basically send him around selling war bonds and doing like
Yeah.
propaganda?
Yeah.
That's like real.
So I'm sure the studio probably like pitched that to the Air Force and they were like, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just bizarre.
Or maybe his like, term of duty was up and then he wanted to re-enlist and the studio was like, no,
Absolutely
fuck you.
not. Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, 1945, he's in a car accident. The Los Angeles Times story the day following the accident read, do you want to do your ticker tape noise? Clark Gable injured in a freak auto crash.
Oh my God.
Freak auto crash.
Wow, that was the headline?
Yeah.
Wow.
Clark Gable, the motion picture actor, was in Cedars of Lebanon yesterday, recovering from injuries he received in a freak accident late Saturday, 24 March.
Accident.
24 March. On the traffic circle at Sunset Boulevard and Bristol Ave in Brentwood. Dr. Myron Prince-Metal, the actor's personal physician, says his condition is not serious. Gable, according to a report in Metro Golden Mayer Studios, was driving east on Sunset Boulevard. And in accordance
This is amazing.
and in accordance with traffic regulations, proceeded around the south half of the traffic circle. He was confronted with another car, the driver of which was apparently had become confused and was proceeding west on the same arc of the circle. To avoid colliding with the other car, Gable drove his automobile over a curb. This is turning into the lifestyles of the rich and famous voice.
Totally.
Still works.
I can't help it. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Gable's car struck a tree, throwing him against the steering wheel. The actor received a laceration on the right leg, which required several stitches, and a bruised chest. The
Not the
studio
chest.
reported.
A bruised chest.
Dr. Prince-Metal offered Gable to remain in the hospital over
Prince-Metal.
Sunday. He is expected to leave the institution today. The driver of the other car apparently did not realize that Gable had had an accident and did not stop. It was reported.
The other car was drunk and
Yeah.
going the wrong way in a roundabout.
The other car
That's what-
was drunk?
Oh, I didn't know which car was going the wrong way.
Well, according to this report, Clark Gable not at fault at all, perfect. According to traffic regulations, he is perfect.
Okay.
The simple-seeming narrative would soon become the subject of persistent rumors that something much more sinister had occurred.
Okay.
Gable was a notorious drunk, and the
Yeah.
story that he had been driving home late at night, quote, in accordance with traffic regulations, seemed obviously untrue.
Okay.
Or suspicious, highly suspicious.
Sauce.
This led people to wonder what had actually happened. Was something being covered up?
Crabs.
Yeah. For sure. Turtley for sharks.
Turtley for sharks it was.
Soon the story that was being whispered around Hollywood was that actually Gable had been driving home drunk and that he had struck and killed a pedestrian.
Yikes.
Oh.
Not good.
According to these rumors, the news coverage of the accident was part of a cover-up that had been orchestrated by MGM to protect their big star.
Yep.
And this seemed especially likely because it was an open secret that MGM was consistently covering up stories of Gable's drunkenness and infidelity before they could make it to the press. Soon, the rumor took on a life of its own. Before long, the story was that a low-level MGM employee had been pressured into taking the fall for Gable, pleading guilty to striking and killing a woman with his car, while Gable was a passenger. This is a rumor. This is a rumor. And serving a short jail term in return for a guaranteed job for life at MGM and a higher salary.
Okay.
Which, like, I can absolutely see having happened.
Right.
But also,
Yeah.
it's a rumor. What is known for sure is that the car accident occurred around 4 a.m.
Ooh.
So he was not sober. Nobody's driving at 4 a.m. sober. Unless, like, you have to get to work. But, like, he's
Right.
Gable.
Right. Right.
Early flight. I don't know.
And there were no eyewitnesses. So the tree that Gable crashed into was on the front lawn of a talent agent who recognized him. That was just like pure luck.
Oh my God.
And knowing that the press would have a field day with photos of the movie star drunken and bloodied in the driver's seat of this car wrapped around a tree, this talent agent called MGM before he called the police.
Oh
Okay.
my God. That was so fucking lucky for Clark Gable.
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
The first people to arrive on the scene were MGM publicists and the studio's security chief, Whitey Hendry.
There you go. So yeah, they just
Like, not
puppeteered the
EMTs.
whole response. Yeah,
So who knows what happened?
exactly.
A studio doctor also arrived on the scene and administered first aid. A studio doctor.
Wow.
So the studio's fingerprints are
All over it.
all
There
over
is
it.
no way to know.
Something fishy happened.
After
for
which
sure.
Gable was transported to the hospital and the wrecked car was towed away. So like the press couldn't take photos of it.
Do they know who the pedestrian was? I mean,
We don't even know if a pedestrian happened.
Actually happened, yeah.
the
Because
whole thing could have gotten covered up.
nobody fucking knows what actually happened.
Oh my
Because the
God.
first news report is that Clark Gable was hit by a different driver.
Yeah.
And then that driver drove away.
So there is no body that anyone's aware of.
A body has never been produced.
Okay.
Jesus.
Gable's injuries required 10 stitches, and he was so drunk, reportedly, that the hospital held him for the next 3 days so he could dry out.
3 days?
Wow.
It is confirmed that he had a 3-day hospital stint after the accident, and that, like, his injuries were only required stitches, so it's not like he, like why else would he be in the hospital for 3
Sure.
days?
Yep.
You know?
Oh, God.
I mean, maybe he was, like, massively concussed, but, like, they don't say that.
Yeah.
However, the rumors that Gable had killed someone that night were so persistent that they made it into several Hollywood tell-alls published decades later. One of these sources actually places the crash 12 years earlier, in 1933. Take all of this with a grain of salt, okay?
Okay.
Like, there's no way we're going to know because the studio was first on the scene, basically. But in this one book, Charles B. Higgin's 1993 book, Merchant of Dreams, Louis B. Mayer and MGM and the Secret Hollywood, presents the following account of Gable's crash. Quote, in 1933, while driving drunk down Sunset Boulevard from the Hollywood Hills, he rounded a bend too sharply and struck a pedestrian, killing her instantly. Mayer acted immediately. He laid him off salary for 90 days, canceled a proposed picture, cut his salary in half for all future movies, and told him to lie low. Somebody would have to say that they were driving the car, since the press would get onto the fact if the court dockets were burned. The dead woman's family was howling for blood. This is one perspective on these rumors. Mayer, quote, Mayer went over the list of his executive staff to find the one he could definitely spare. He selected an executive I will call Mark Pine and summoned him to the office. He told Pine that, quote, whatever happened, the studio must not be damaged or destroyed by the exposure of its leading star to charges of manslaughter, that Pine had an opportunity to save everyone's neck. Pine
you'd be a hero.
Yeah.
Take the fall.
Take one for the team and, for MGM, we're a family.
Ugh.
Yikes.
Pine would be offered a guarantee of life employment at MGM and an income stretching to death.
Once he gets out of jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he would take the rap for Gable, plead guilty to a manslaughter charge, saying that he was with Gable at the wheel and by prearrangement with the Los Angeles District Attorney, Burren Fitz, would go to prison for a limited time.
Wow.
He accepted. Gable went to Palm Springs to begin filming It Happened One Night, and Pine served a 12-month term. No inkling of the matter ever reached print.
Dang.
Okay, this is
But
one-
it's on record that this man, allegedly, is on record anyway, that he served prison time for a manslaughter charge.
I don't think we know because this.
Well, we can't confirm it because they're not using his name.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So who knows? And also, the 12 years difference in the date
is
suspicious.
Yeah.
Because why would the press? Yeah. Okay.
So Snopes actually has debunked this 1933 account business.
Okay. I do trust Snopes.
Yeah. Noting that Gable did have a week-long hospital stay in 1933, but it was not the result of a car accident. Rather, it was to get cosmetic surgery on his, quote, famously large ears.
Incredible. Okay.
Were his ears any smaller afterwards?
I mean, kind of, yeah.
I guess. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Unless it was a total cover-up lie, is my point.
Right.
He did have pretty large
right.
ears. I think, but you can tuck them back, you know?
Yeah.
Pin him.
Yeah. Snopes goes on to note that it is suspicious that the only source this book provides is an interview with a former studio employee 60 years after the fact, and that the details are impossible to verify because no real name is provided for the alleged victim, and the only or no name at all for the victim, and only a pseudonym for the employee who supposedly took the fall. So there's
It's shady.
It's very shady.
Yeah.
The website states, quote, "We began to suspect that the author had been taken in by someone who simply recounted an age-old rumor to him as if it was a real-life event." So the 1945 car accident can be verified, like an accident involving a car and Clark Gable and 1945
A chemistry occurred.
This is through numerous newspaper articles at the time, which were published the following day about Gable's hospitalization. None of these articles make mention of someone dying at the scene, but like, of course, those who believe the cover-up rumors say that like MGM just did a good job.
Yep, covering it up.
However, the ultimate conclusion of the Snopes investigation was that, quote, "From such hazy half-rememberings and unconscious conflation of separate events are long-lived rumors created, especially when such tales confirm what everyone knows, that the studios of the 1930s and 40s went to any lengths to protect their misbehaving stars. The rumor about a dead woman and a studio flack sent to jail sounds believable because it so perfectly fits with what we already believe about how studios guarded their properties and is therefore accepted as valid without question. Also could have been, well, no, he already was in Gone with the Wind, so never mind. I was going to say it would have been more leverage for making him do Gone with the Wind, but that would have been only if it happened in 1933. So never mind. Ignore what I said.
There could have been another huge movie that he was...
Yeah, the whole rest of his career.
Yeah.
Right.
We're never going to know. I think he was definitely driving drunk.
Oh, yeah. And something fucked up happened, whether or not somebody died. He caused a fucking accident.
Yeah, whether or not another car was even involved or not. They covered up his drunk driving.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
And maybe somebody else got hurt or killed. We don't know. Gable died 15 years after the crash of a heart attack at the age of just 59. Hard living.
Oh.
Yep. He died before he could see the birth of his first official child, John Clark Gable, with his fifth wife, Kay Spreckles. Spreckles Deutsch.
That's so cute. Spreckles Deutsch.
That is cute.
Oh, that's cute. Some Greg Spreckles.
It would come out years later that John Clark Gable was actually not Clark Gable's first child. Back in 1935, he had impregnated a co-star named Loretta Young, but Young hid her pregnancy and then later claimed to have adopted her daughter, Judy.
The loophole.
So it could go the other way, too. It's like you're not allowed to get pregnant, or if you do get oopsies pregnant, you have to pretend, hide it, and then we'll let you adopt your own child.
Or be forced into an abortion.
Yep.
God.
So this daughter, Judy, would not learn the truth about who her father was until after he was already dead.
Did she have big ears?
I don't know. I don't have a picture of Judy.
Let's say she did. That's more fun.
Okay. In either a weird twist or a case of the apple not falling far from the tree, his son, John Clark Gable, was arrested in 2013 for a hit and run.
Oh, dear.
After he drunkenly crashed into 6 parked cars in Malibu and then drove away from the scene.
Oh, no. That's so weird.
Yeah. And the grandson, John Clark Gable III, also recently died of some drug issues. So there's some addiction issues.
Yeah.
Happening in this line.
That's sad.
That is a crazy coincidence. I never knew any of this.
Neither did I.
I didn't know much about him. Literally, obviously I had seen Gone with the Wind, but like I saw it for the first time way before I
had any
knew or cared who the actor was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I watched the movie Captain Ron so many times growing up.
Of course you did.
And
Recently.
Is he in Captain Ron?
He is not in Captain Ron, but he is referenced in Captain Ron. Like the sailboat that the family inherits supposedly like belonged or is rumored to have belonged to Clark Gable's estate. So they talk about Clark Gable a lot, and like Clark Gable making love in that bed on that sailboat.
Oh,
and
God.
I never knew who the fuck Clark Gable was, but as a kid, it was like, I'm gonna find out who this Clark Gable is.
Contextually, you knew who he was.
I knew he was
important.
famous
Yeah. And
Wow.
wild lover.
and might have had a sailboat. I don't know.
Maybe.
Captain Ron. Great
wow.
film.
I love that Captain Ron was like definitely the inspiration for you doing this case because you
Oh.
just recently watched it.
I just recently watched a different Kurt Russell film.
Oh,
I just watched
Overboard, right?
Overboard,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. My
But
bad. I got them mixed
I'm
up.
due for a Captain Ron.
Mhm.
I hope it holds up. I've
I'm-
seen that movie probably 100 times.
I'm due for is it House Guest? The other
House
Goldie
Sitter.
Hawn?
House Sitter with Steve Martin.
Mm.
Yeah. When she's doing the dance.
Oh, the best.
God.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
I
Anyway.
watched Private Benjamin. Private Benjamin is a weird one. not in the top pantheon, I would say.
the Goldie Pantheon.
I love that y'all can't y'all can't follow Stranger Things, but you can. Okay, no, I get
Absolutely
it.
follow the Clark Gable to Kurt Russell to Goldie Pantheon.
Yep.
Train of
100%.
thought.
No, this makes perfect sense. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, no more,
Yeah.
no further questions.
If you know, you know, and you
Yep.
have to watch Overboard,
Mhm.
House Sitter, Captain
Captain
Ron.
Ron.
No Goldie, but it's still really good.
Well,
Kurt
I'm
Russell's
watching
kind of
Mommy
the male
Dearest
Goldie.
tonight. So.
Oh, and Mommy. I got a lot to do. We better keep trucking.
Yep.
Are y'all ready for my case?
Who knows?
I mean,
Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
Sure. I'm doing okay.
Yeah,
Mentally.
we could do this.
Yeah, right.
No,
Everything's
you're not,
relative.
but- right.
Everything is relative.
So as Lucy said earlier, normally I do not like unsolved cases. I like things wrapped up. But for whatever reason, this one really intrigued me.
Yay, I love a loose end.
Mm-hmm. So Jean Spangler was a Hollywood starlet in the 1940s. She was born in Seattle in 1923, and her family moved to Los Angeles when she was young.
Los Angeles.
City of Angels.
City of Angels when she was young.
Tinseltown.
She attended Franklin High School and right after graduation dove into modeling and acting with dreams of being on the big screen. Though she didn't strike
Or
as
Broadway, whatever.
much or Broadway,
Oh,
her backup,
backup Broadway.
her safety school.
My backup is Broadway. God.
Though she didn't strike as much fame for her film career as other ingenues of her generation, she held her own and had some small roles in When My Baby Smiles at Me,
Ick. Oh.
Chicken Every Sunday, and a musical that I'm going to need to check out, Young Man with a Horn.
Who is coming up with these titles?
I don't know.
These are terrible.
Young Man with a Horn. We'll come back
they
into
sound
play.
like really bizarre horse racing names.
Kinda, but I love it.
Chicken Every Sunday in the lead.
Chicken
When My Baby Smiles at Me, coming up from behind.
You know your dad knew all of these films,
I'm
though.
certain he fucking did.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
probably still somewhere living on his TiVo.
Which
the
was all
TiVo
Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah,
Yep.
the ghostly TiVo memory of my father. If my father is haunting anything, it's someone's DVR.
It's the set of Turner Classic Movies.
yeah. He's living inside of like somebody's on-demand DVR.
He's in the computer.
Under the ground. Actually, he's not. But anyway. So, Young Man with a Horn will come back into play later in this story.
Mm.
So in
Thank
1942, I know, we're not done with that horn. In 1942, at only 19 years old, she married a man named Dexter Benner. He was not a Hollywood guy, but he had a successful career in plastics manufacturing.
Oh,
Plastics.
Yeah, he was a plastics man.
Ever heard of it?
Ever heard of it? It was new at the time. They were only married for 4 years, but during that time had a daughter named Christine. Some reports said that she actually filed for divorce a mere 6 months into their marriage, citing abuse at the hands of her husband, and that they continued a tumultuous on-again, off-again relationship and then had a child. And she tried to stay in it for Christine's sake, but just couldn't deal with it anymore.
Okay.
So in the wake of their divorce, a custody battle raged for several years. Dexter was first given custody because he had alleged that Jean had been unfaithful to him during their marriage, which very well may be true. I don't know.
But also, like, shouldn't be grounds for losing custody, but also back then it was, apparently.
Yep. And he weaponized this custody win and denied Jean access to their child, Christine, on 23 occasions and even threatened that he would, quote, fix it so you'll never get to see her.
Yeah, so he's an abuser, and this is all very clear. Okay.
He's a psycho.
Yeah, got it.
But eventually, Jean was awarded full custody of Christine, with the courts deciding that a child's place is with their mother. And she moved in with her own mother and sister to help her balance motherhood and an aspiring acting career, as well as to be supported through this really awful time in her life. Mm-hmm. But now, a 26-year-old divorced single mom, she could see her Hollywood dreams slipping away. Hollywood is fickle, and now she was considered undesirable. Her fame had come from the divorce and not her talents as a performer. But around this time is when she got this bit role in Young Man with a Horn. And it's like, this was actually, some of the movies that she was in had big names in them. Like, not better names, but like big name actors in these movies. So she was like, at this time, on a precipice of kind of digging out of the sort of bad press of her divorce and like staking her claim on Hollywood. And she was sort of slotted to be like, the next Hollywood ingenue, even at 26. So it's like kind of a big deal.
Okay.
Kirk Douglas was starring in this film, and the two of them met on set. Jean was working primarily as an extra and a dancer in this musical, so her call times were often in the evenings. Usually her mother would watch Christine, but she was away visiting family in Louisville, Kentucky. So Jean dropped Christine off with her sister-in-law, Sophie, on the night of Friday, October 7th, 1949.
It's never good when we have an exact date.
No.
Yep.
If you hear an exact date on this podcast,
Something's coming.
Someone's
dying.
about to die.
Maybe.
Ooh.
She told Sophie. So Sophie was her sister-in-law. She had one sister and one brother, and her brother passed away in active duty in World War II. But her sister-in-law, Sophie, stayed very close with the family.
Oh, that sister-in-law. So not ex's sister, brother's wife. Got it.
No relation to Dexter. This was her, like actual familial brother's wife.
Got it.
Now widow, who stayed close with the family and who she trusted to care for Christine when her family couldn't handle it. Or was gone, whatever. Yep. So she told Sophie that she was going to meet with Dexter, her ex, to discuss a late child support payment and then head to work for an evening shoot.
Uh-oh. Oh, this fucking asshole. God damn it.
Well, we'll see. That's a lot.
Maybe she murdered him.
That'd be great.
We don't know. So this is from Entertainment Weekly. Quote, she came down the stairs and asked how she looked, Sophie later told reporters. She smiled at me, and then her little girl, Christine, asked where she was going. I'm going to work, Jean answered, but she winked at me when she said it. It was not unusual for Spangler to go to work late in the afternoon as a bit player involved in night shoots, but Sophie and dozens of others were left to wonder, did that wink suggest Spangler was using work as a cover for something else? She had made a phone call to Sophie later that night to let her know that work would be keeping her all night and that she wouldn't be back until morning. So Sophie puts Christine to bed. Sophie's like, okay, you're going to be working all night. You're either going to get back really, really late or whatever. I'm going to go to bed.
Got it.
But despite where Jean claimed she was going, the Screen Extras Guild claimed that she was not scheduled or on call for filming that evening. And come Saturday morning, she had still not returned home.
Oh.
Concerned, Sophie called the police and an investigation began. It was then that they discovered she had not been scheduled to work at all at any of the studios in Los Angeles. So then they went to talk to Dexter, who also claimed not to have seen Jean at all that night.
Like, she wasn't scheduled to work that night anywhere. But
at any of the studios.
She had been working. It wasn't like this whole period she was lying. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So it's just that night.
But they just don't know what the wink meant.
Sophie, the sister-in-law, is like, she winked at me. I don't know if that means something now after the fact, but...
And it's so common to, like, say whatever in front of a little kid.
Exactly.
You know, you're not going to, like, fully explain.
No matter what, she was telling the people closest to her that she was meeting with her ex and then going to work. And nobody seemed to know where she was actually going that night. She kept that to herself.
Okay.
So then they talked to Dexter, who also claimed not to have seen Jean at all that night and that no meeting had been scheduled. He was outside of the city at the time of the alleged meeting and had a solid alibi to confirm this. He said he hadn't seen Jean in several weeks, likely since the last pickup or drop off for parenting time with Christine. So like he was checked out. He was not in contact with her as far as we know.
And we trust that alibi.
I mean, I do, and we'll get to it.
Okay.
Can you remind me, at what point did she say she had an appointment to go over to his house to talk about the custody?
That night, she was like, Sophie,
But
can
she
you
told
watch
Sophie.
Christine? I have to go meet up with Dexter to talk about this. It wasn't,
And
she
then
had
go to
custody at
work
this point.
or
She was like,
something?
I have to go meet up with Dexter to talk about his late child support payment, and then I'm running to work.
Got it,
And I'm
okay.
going to be, and then like 2 hours after she left, she called and was like, hey, this shoot is going to keep me super late. I'm probably not going to be home until like really late at night or early tomorrow morning.
Got
and
it,
Sophie
okay.
was like, cool, all right.
Okay.
See you tomorrow, basically.
But now we've confirmed Dexter wasn't in town and there was no shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she was, seeing a little love interest.
We have theories.
Okay.
So from medium.com, quote, investigating further, police soon found a witness who swore he had seen Spangler at the farmer's market not far from her home around 6 p.m. on the evening of October 7th. The witness, a store clerk, said she appeared to be waiting to meet somebody, suggesting perhaps that she had used the location as a rendezvous and didn't wish to be picked up outside her own home. She waited for 2 hours, during which time she seemingly used a payphone or something to make a call home. So maybe that was the call
It's
to
gonna
Sophie.
take a while.
This is going to take a while. Yep. While this was the last confirmed sighting, some believe they had seen Jean around 10 p.m. eating hot dogs with a clean-cut looking man on Vine Street.
Sucking on chili dogs.
Sucking on chili dogs. Maybe. Outside the Tasty Fruits.
I want a hot dog.
I know. We should do that.
I
So-
have some in my fridge.
Luck, I don't.
Cheddar worst.
I'm not supposed to eat them, but whatever.
Whatever.
I'm gonna text Bill very soon. So she appeared in good spirits and not under any stress during this sighting. They decided they had been incorrect after questioning by police and had actually seen her on October 6th at that 10 p.m. hot dog thing.
Okay.
So the store clerk sighting
late
was
night hot dog
confirmed. The store clerk sighting around 6 p.m. or whatever was
She
confirmed.
was at the farmer's market and
Yep.
made a phone call, but the
Yep.
hot dogs was a different
Hot
day.
dogs was the day before.
Got
Hot
it.
dog moment.
Okay.
However, another witness placed her in the company of a clean-cut man at the Cheese Box restaurant around 1:30 a.m. on October 8th, so late at night, the night of. And Al Lazar, a popular DJ on the Sunset Strip, stated she had also been arguing with two men at the establishment at around 2:30 a.m. Terry Taylor, the proprietor, also placed her in the company of this clean-cut man, as did a newsboy. So a bunch of people saw her out
late night, the
Out
night,
late night.
of her disappearance with
Yep.
a clean-cut man and
With a
arguing with
horn.
some other dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then the mystery got even more mysterious.
No.
On Sunday afternoon, so 2 days after her disappearance, her purse was found in Griffith Park. And this is like Griffith Park, like there's Griffith Observatory. It's like it's in the city, but it's not, it's very intentional to go there.
It's like
Okay.
overlooking.
Yeah, it's not like right down the street from
She's not
the
passing
cheese box. Yeah. And if you're walking there in the middle of the night by yourself, that would be, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that.
That would be odd.
Yeah.
Kind of far
This-
away, too.
Yeah, it's kind of off the beaten path. So the strap of the bag that they found was partially torn as though someone had tried to yank it off her shoulder. And inside of the bag was a note written by Jean herself. So it's possible that this was like a snatch and grab and that it was dumped there and that she was never there in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The note appeared to be unfinished, ending with what looked like a comma and read as follows, quote, Kirk, can't wait any longer, going to see Dr. Scott. It will work best this way while mother is away.
Oh, she's getting a shmushmortion from Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
Was he the clean-cut man?
We don't know.
Did
We
they
don't know.
mention a chin? Was
Yeah.
a chin
I'm assuming he
mentioned?
had a chin, but I don't know if it was specifically
It
mentioned.
wasn't remarked upon. Okay.
And Kirk Douglas, to be fair, like Kirk Douglas at that time was a big name in Hollywood. So it wouldn't be a clean-cut man. It would be, oh my God, I saw her with Kirk fucking Douglas.
Right.
You know?
Because, like, how would she be recognized but not Kirk Douglas?
Correct. So I have theories, but we're going to unpack all of it. So the only Kirk that Jean could be directly linked to in her life was Kirk Douglas, the star of Young Man with a Horn.
Aha!
He claimed at first that he didn't even know her, calling the police as soon as this detail of the note had hit the press, trying to clear his name. But that raised the question of, if you didn't know her, why would you immediately call police, assuming you're the Kirk referenced in this note, and distance yourself from the note?
True.
Mm-hmm.
He then changed his story, saying he did know her and that they were friendly on set, but that they'd never spent time with each other outside of the studio. Quote, I told Detective Chief Thad Brown, it's probably Tad, but I like saying Thad, that I didn't remember the girl or the name until a friend recalled it was she who worked as an extra in a scene with me in my picture, The Young Man with a Horn. Then I recalled that she was a tall girl in a green dress. I talked and kidded with her a bit on set, but I never saw her before or after that and have never been out with her.
Too many details, you're lying.
I think it's sus. But Kirk said this in a press statement on October 12th, 1949. So like the week after she disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
As for his whereabouts on the night of her disappearance, he was in Palm Springs. So he was not looked into further as a suspect. But I'll loop back to this because I have a theory.
He could still be not responsible for her death and playing cover or
well, and at this point, they don't even know if she's dead. There's no body. There's no body. The only evidence is this purse. Nope, right. She's disappeared in thin air. But I mean, she's definitely dead. But
yeah,
but you know what I mean. So the investigation also revealed that Jean was 3 months pregnant at the time of her disappearance. We don't know who the father of the unborn is, but this certainly explains the mysterious, quote, Dr. Scott and the I can't wait any longer that nobody in the family knew anything about, and why the note mentioned her mother being out of town. So there's like family members who denied that she was pregnant because maybe they didn't even know, but there were a couple of close friends and confidants that were like, yeah, she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And just was hiding it.
Right.
So at the time of her disappearance, abortion was illegal in the United States and folks would have to seek care through secretive channels. So like, was this what Jean was up to that night? And if Kirk Douglas really wasn't the Kirk in the note, then who was Kirk?
Mm-hmm. It was Kirk Douglas.
So again, from Medium, quote, I mean, I also think it was Kirk Douglas, so we're on the same page. Yeah. But let's try to pretend that this is a mystery.
Okay.
So police expanded the search for the actual Kirk in her life, and after questioning friends, it appeared that she may have been engaged in a secret. No. Yes. She may have been engaged in a secret affair. This is just weirdly written.
Okay.
Actor Robert Cummings, who was also like a big deal in Hollywood, and she had been an extra in a movie with him, so they knew each other, would tell police that Jean told him she was engaged in a casual relationship at the time, but not revealing the man's name, but saying she was, quote, having the time of her life.
Was Kirk Douglas married at the time? Was that why they couldn't just like be dating?
I think so. I believe he was married.
Okay.
But also studios dictated who dated and who didn't. So even if he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. It would later be found out that this mystery man was a writer by the name of Peter Brooks, and seemingly had nothing to do with the case, wasn't Kirk. So the hunt for Kirk continues.
What year is this again?
49, when she went missing.
Yeah, he was married.
Mm-hmm. So coming up empty on Kirk's, they switch gears to Dr. Scott. The working theory now was that she had been seeking an abortion and the procedure could have gone wrong, leading to her death. Police contacted every Dr. Scott in the Los Angeles area, all of whom denied knowing Jean Spangler, but obviously they wouldn't confess to knowing her, even if they did, because they would stand to be prosecuted for not only performing an abortion, but if she had died in the process, it would be very, very bad.
Like hiding it, covering it up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's also considered likely that, quote unquote, Dr. Scott was a fake name in the first place because it would be risky for a practitioner performing an abortion to even associate their real name with the procedure.
Absolutely.
Maybe it was his first name.
Maybe. Who knows? But this theory, while it seemed to fit, really didn't account for her torn bag being found in Griffith Park. This left folks wondering if something more nefarious was at play. There wasn't a single shred of additional evidence found in the park. Now, It's 1949. That doesn't mean that more evidence wasn't there.
But they didn't know how to properly look for it, collect it. Or if they had found it, like, what are they going to do with the hair?
Exactly.
They don't fucking... gross. Clean it up.
Right. All we know is that they collected the bag and they didn't find anything else in the park.
Right. But the torn strap is not good.
Yeah. So it appeared that she had disappeared without a trace. This was also around the time of the Black Dahlia murder, which oddly enough, Jean did have a small connection to. She had worked as a dancer in the Florentine Gardens nightclub, a popular spot in LA owned by Danish businessman Mark Hansen. He had a creepy habit of allowing the young women who worked in the club to stay at his home if they were struggling, aka vulnerable.
Gross.
And several women claimed he made inappropriate sexual advances on them.
You don't say.
Yeah, shacked. One of the women making this claim was Elizabeth Short, who was famously found mutilated and bisected in 1947 and was given the name the Black Dahlia in the press.
That is very soon after the Black Dahlia.
Mm-hmm. This club had also had some seedy regulars, including famous LA gangster Mickey Cohen, distant relative,
Probably.
An Italian.
There's a lot of Cohens.
Everybody's related.
Everybody's
Go back far
related.
enough.
Exactly. But these theories were mostly rumors, as Jean hadn't worked in the club in several years, and there was no evidence linking either Mark Hansen or the mob to his disappearance.
So that's
it
just
might
kind
have
of like
been
a factoid.
Yep. And, you know, this was a big story in the press, so everybody's like, oh, it could have been this, it could have been that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again from Medium, quote, on the other hand, just 2 days after Spangler disappeared, the same day her purse was found at Griffith Park, Davy Ogle went missing.
Rough last name.
Yeah. Ogle was an associate of Mickey Cohen, the gangster.
Oh.
And there might be some evidence that he was a secret boyfriend of Jean Spangler. And the two may have eloped together and shared a grisly end.
Oh.
Eyewitnesses placed Spangler and Ogle together in both Palm Springs and Las Vegas close to the time of her disappearance.
Is he a clean-cut man?
I don't know. I didn't find pictures of him. Or maybe
Is
I
his
did.
chin
It might be on the...
unremarkable?
I might have a picture of him on the drive, actually. So eyewitnesses placed Spangler and Ogle together in both Palm Springs and Las Vegas, where I think some of the elopement rumors might have come from, that they eloped in Vegas. Mm-hmm. The duo being in the company of another Cohen associate Frank Nicoli. Davy Ogle had been...
Jewish fella.
A Jewish fella. Not an Italian, a Jewish fella. Davy Ogle had been indicted for conspiracy at the time of his vanishing, and some believe that Davy and Jean fled to avoid the charge and expected conviction. Nicoli had also mysteriously vanished on September 2nd. The following year, in 1950, a customs agent in El Paso, Texas, reported that he had seen Spangler and Ogle at a hotel, identifying Jean from a photo that had been circulated by police.
This
However,
all feels...
really reached.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, Jean's mother, Florence, rejected the idea that she was still alive, stating, quote, I'm sure she would have found a way to communicate with us if she was alive and free. And nobody can tell me that she would have left her baby unless she was forced to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as for little Christine, she really went through it too, because custody of her was awarded back to her father, Dexter Banner, once Jean went missing and then was presumed dead.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have let that happen either.
I don't think so.
No.
Who once again weaponized that by keeping Jean's mother, Florence, from being able to see her, which was against the court custody agreement.
What a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Yep. His bullshit landed him in jail for 2 weeks, and when he was released, he packed Christine up and moved to Florida with her, all the way, literally the other side of the country.
Can you imagine being that big of a douchebag that you won't let your traumatized daughter see her grandmother who she used to live with?
Yep. Who practically raised her. Yeah.
Just because you still have a grudge against your dead ex-wife who you abused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead and ex.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I truly don't know if Florence and the rest of Jean's family had much contact with Christine after that. I didn't go down that rabbit hole, but it's just really sad. So we may never know what happened to Jean, but I am definitely in the camp that, like, Kirk Douglas was more involved than he admits. If he had hooked up with her and gotten her pregnant, he was a wealthy and powerful and married man in Hollywood. He didn't need to be in town to have her abducted and taken care of to keep his name free and clear of scandal.
Mm-hmm.
And that just seems like that fits. Like, You know how when you apply these theories that start to go down so many different convoluted, well, it could have been this, it could have been that. It's like usually the clearest path is the one that's just straight from point A to point B.
I have an alternative
Okay.
theory.
Well, good.
So it sounds like in the note, she is very open to getting this abortion. She does in the note, which again, she hadn't given to him because it was found unfinished in her purse.
Mm-hmm.
But in the note, it sounds like she's gonna go get this abortion, and like he needs to stop like dithering, basically, or like not giving her an answer about it or whatever. So why would he need to have her?
Right, if she was gonna just take care of this in the first place,
and it's already been 3 months, and she hasn't blown up his spot, and. Hindsight is 20/20, but he gets a divorce from his wife like a year later. So, like, why would he need to have her killed? You know, if she's kind of cooperating.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe somebody else had her killed in that same circle.
I think it's possible that she had hooked up with Kirk. That relationship had ended, but she was, 3 months pregnant. You know, a lot can happen in 3 months with your love life.
Oh, my God. Don't I know it?
3 hours.
Right.
3 days.
And she maybe had started seeing somebody new very casually, or she's just like out having fun with someone completely different. And some shit goes wrong there and she's murdered. There are a lot of douchebags out there.
I know. And, it could have been anything.
And it's not like a abduction, cover up, whatever. It was just kind of like, she happened to be pregnant by somebody else when she was murdered by somebody else.
I don't know. I just want to commit libel against the now deceased Kirk Douglas. Really.
Yeah. I was
He's come up a lot lately.
Yeah, I know.
As you were talking about your theories and whatnot, I was thinking about what I said at the beginning, which was all of these movies have like a clear beginning, middle, end, and a resolution, and that nothing is random. Everything is intentional. But that's not how life is.
Right. Of course not.
Like all of these things could have been completely separate, unrelated.
From her disappearance.
Mysteries.
Right.
She
All the
just
like Mickey Cohen thing could have been, they're like mobsters. So like people are going to disappear and go into hiding.
She could have just been
kinds
out
of shit.
Drunk and vulnerable at 2:30 in the morning trying to make her way home and got abducted and someone killed her and ditched her bag in Griffith Park and then buried her somewhere or whatever, and she was never found.
Exactly. And they might have never even known she was pregnant or even who she necessarily was. She was just a pretty woman.
And maybe she got abducted by or she got, her purse got snatched and then she was abducted or killed or whatever by two completely different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, her
none
purse,
or all of this
she gets
could be
mugged. Her purse is snatched. She's trying to get home. She's alone.
Yep.
She gets in a car.
Right.
Disappears.
Someone pretending to help her and then they fucking ride off with her and So I don't know. The case is still open to this day, and for several years after her disappearance, folks called in sightings all over the Southwest, including California, Arizona, and Mexico. But the sightings could never be confirmed. So
or
really
her ex-husband, sorry, one more theory. Or her ex-husband had her abducted and killed so that he could get back.
I could absolutely see.
Because he is a vindictive son of a bitch.
He really is. And if he found out that she had gotten pregnant, like... I know
the
we've
risk
talked
of
about
homicide
this.
goes up.
Exactly. So,
and he's the only one that benefited from her death.
Yep, because he got his kid.
Right.
So, there are a lot of theories that, frankly, fit really fucking well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, it's just terribly sad.
Yes.
And we really, I think the only way we could get any new information is if her remains are found. And at this point, it's been over 50 years, more than that now, and they haven't been. So
they would have to do like familial DNA, basically.
You can find out a lot even from a skeleton. You can see if it's like blunt force trauma or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Drugs.
Right. And even just like a location where she was buried could help triangulate with where the bag was found in Griffith Park. Like, there's so much more that we could learn if her remains were found. But I don't think anyone even fucking knows where to look. Right. Because they don't even know if she was killed in California.
Right. It could be literally anywhere.
She could be anywhere. It's just like, There's, I hate it. I hate it.
Wow.
It's the worst. And that's my case.
All right.
Nice.
Weirdo, right? It's a weird one.
Yeah.
This is a weird one. This was a good
Interesting.
episode.
It was very mysterious.
Well, thank you, Bear from St. Paul, for choosing this topic.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.